Welcome to Bed Crime Stories Podcast. I'm your host, T. To my bed crimers, hi, how you doing? Hope you're having a great day. To anyone new here, a warm welcome. Thank you for checking out my channel. Let me just ask that after listening to or watching the video, if you find you enjoyed it or learned something, do me a favor, smash that like button and consider subscribing. Also, if you appreciate my work, please consider supporting the channel with a Patreon membership. Now, let's dig in. Think prison breaks only happen in the movies? Think again. On August 31st, 2023, nearly 2 weeks ago, a dangerous fugitive made a daring prison break from Chester County Prison in Pennsylvania. 34-year-old Danelo Cavalcante is a convicted murderer. In April of 2021, Cavalcante used a sharp object to inflict approximately 38 wounds on his ex-girlfriend, 33-year-old Deborah Brandao, in front of her 2 young children, a then 7-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son. Those kids will be traumatized for life without a doubt. The story goes that Cavalcante wanted to prevent Brandao from telling the authorities that he was wanted in his native country of Brazil for another murder. Nice guy. Brandao had filed an order of protection against Cavalcante the year prior to her death. The escape came 2 weeks after a jury convicted Cavalcante for first-degree murder. He was awaiting transfer to a state prison after being sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. Note that Cavalcante was once before on the run. Right after he did in his ex-girlfriend, he took off. He was arrested in Virginia and then extradited back to Pennsylvania. During Cavalcante's trial, his sister Eleni's boyfriend, Francesco Lima, testified that he helped Cavalcante escape following the brutal crime against Deborah Brandao. Lima received immunity in exchange for his testimony. He said he bandaged Cavalcante's wounds at the time, gave him a clean change of clothes, put gas in his car so that the fugitive could drive out of state. As for his latest escape, video of it shows Cavalcante stretching his body from wall to wall and then climbing up it like Spider-Man. Well, not exactly like Spider-Man. The move is known as crab walking. Here's how this whole escape drama played out. Cavalcante enters the exercise yard at the Chester County Prison at 8:30 a.m. on Thursday, August 31st. That's when the public learned of Cavalcante's escape from the prison in Procopson Township. At approximately 8:51 a.m., with a friend providing a lookout, Cavalcante uses his hands and feet to climb the walls of a hallway area next to the exercise yard to get to the facility's roof. He then pushes his way through razor wire, runs across the roof, scales a second fence, and passes through more razor wire. At 9:30 a.m., the escapee is spotted walking south in Procopson Township on Wawasset Road, the same road the Chester County Prison is located on. 5 minutes later, Cavalcante's block leaves the exercise yard and the prisoners return to their unit. At 9:45 a.m., correctional officers from the block notify the prison's central control that an inmate is missing. They perform a special count. 3 minutes later, correctional officers inform Central Control that Cavalcante is missing. Prison staff briefly believe that he may have been in a phone visiting room, but unable to find him, they realize he's missing. At 9:50 a.m., the prison is locked down. At 10 a.m., the prison sounds its public escape siren and notifies the 911 center of the escape. That's about 50 minutes after Cavalcante shimmied up the walls. Authorities launched their search for Cavalcante. Pennsylvania State Police troopers and U.S. Marshals fan out across a 6-mile radius from the prison using helicopters, drones, and other resources to aid in the search of the heavily wooded area. A joint $10,000 reward is offered for information leading to Cavalcante's capture. Thursday turns into Friday. Authorities say they have no indication that Cavalcante has left the area, but that his ultimate goal may be to head south and eventually back to his native Brazil. District Attorney Deborah Brandao says there's no evidence that Cavalcante had assistance during the escape. 11:30 p.m. Friday, local police receive a report of an attempted burglary in the 1100 block of Ballantree Lane in Procopson Township. Authorities are unable to say if it was Cavalcante. 10 minutes later, Ryan Drummond of Westchester encounters Cavalcante, who he says has broken into his home. Drummond dials 911 and does not confront the fugitive. Cavalcante takes a white baseball cap belonging to Drummond, as well as some produce from a local farm stand. Sounds like Cavalcante has a taste for organic produce. Drummond flicked the lights from upstairs to let the burglar know that people were home. Cavalcante then flicked the lights downstairs. How terrifying. Westchester University cancels classes because of the search and announces that a university ID or key will be required to access all buildings. That campus is 6 miles from the prison. In the early morning hours of Saturday, September 2nd, Cavalcante is spotted on a residential surveillance camera at 1:43 a.m. on the 800 block of Lenape Road in Procopson Township. Later that morning, the police release a portion of the video showing the fugitive walking through a wooded area. He's briefly seen emerging from behind a small tree, and he's now wearing a backpack. Later Saturday morning, the area where the police are searching is closed off in all directions. Longwood Gardens in Kennett Square, about 1 mile from where Cavalcante was last seen, announces that it's closing for the day. By Saturday afternoon, the officials ask residents to be vigilant and to report anything suspicious, such as missing bikes or any signs that someone has been on their property. They ask residents to keep an eye on the homes of neighbors who are away for the Labor Day weekend. Saturday turns into Sunday. The manhunt continues. Law enforcement officers fan out across Procopson Township. Cavalcante is spotted again. This now makes for 4 total sightings. Monday, Labor Day. It is now 5 days since Cavalcante escaped. Officials believe that he's hiding in a wooded area in Procopson Township. The authorities say that they have isolated him to an area. They also say they are investigating 2 burglaries in the area that could be tied to the fugitive. At 8:21 p.m. and 9:33 p.m., Cavalcante is recorded on a private trail camera in Longwood Gardens, once heading north and then again returning south. He's traveling with a backpack and now a duffel bag, and he's wearing a hooded sweatshirt. Police are saying at this point that there's no evidence that he had outside help. Tuesday, September 5th, school districts in the area opt to remain closed following the holiday weekend due to the ongoing search. Wednesday, September 6th, the search for Cavalcante intensifies with resources from the FBI and U.S. Border Patrol boosting the effort. Authorities ship the search to an area around the Brandywine Creek in Chadds Ford. This is the second time that the authorities have shifted the perimeter in which they believe Cavalcante is hiding. The schools remain closed. Fast forward to the night of Saturday, September 9th. Cavalcante steals a 2020 Ford Transit van 3/4 of a mile from the search perimeter and travels about 25 miles north to the East Pikeland Township, home of an acquaintance he's known for several years. The van belongs to the owner of Bailey's Dairy near Longwood Gardens. The owner had left the keys inside the truck. Stealing the truck is a game changer for the fugitive because it allows him to slip through the police's perimeter. When the van runs out of gas, Cavalcante abandons it in East Nantmeal Township. Cavalcante then shows up at the house of an old associate in the Phoenixville area around 9:50 p.m. He speaks to the acquaintance on a Ring doorbell camera, but the person isn't home and doesn't respond. The camera captures him newly clean-shaved, without his mustache. He's now wearing a green hoodie. Then Cavalcante tries to contact another acquaintance. That person was also not home. Yeah, I'd pretend I wasn't home also if he rang my doorbell. But called the police after a female resident saw the escapee. Clearly, Cavalcante is looking for support. Sunday, September 10th. Cavalcante is not watching football. He's still roaming somewhere out there. Monday, September 11th. The manhunt for Cavalcante is now in its 12th day. The police schedule a press conference to share updates on the search. It is scheduled for today at 2 p.m. Eastern Central Time. Clearly, the stakes are high for Cavalcante, who seems willing to do anything to avoid spending his life in prison. Also happening today, U.S. Immigration and Customs law enforcement have arrested Cavalcante's sister, Eleni Cavalcante, over some, quote, immigration issues. She faces the possibility of deportation. The authorities are not saying if she is suspected of helping her brother. According to Deborah Brandao's sister, Sarah, who lived near both Deborah and Danelo Cavalcante, he seemed like a good guy when he first met her sister. Deborah met him because they were neighbors in Chester County. He started out as a good neighbor and then turned into a kind boyfriend. They dated for about a year and a half. Per Sarah, Cavalcante seemed, quote, normal, but he was always very silent, observant, and reserved, end quote. And although he was nice to Deborah's kids, Sarah said, quote, there wasn't much attachment to them. No love, no hugs, nothing. Very cold, end quote. But over that time, Cavalcante seemed to transform, and he devolves into a jealous guy who threatened Deborah before her death. He would tell her he would, quote, do the worst to her if she ever cheated on him. When Sarah learned of her sister's death, the sister who was her very best friend, she said her world ended. She and Deborah worked together all day, and when they weren't together, they spoke on the phone. Deborah and Sarah are also from Brazil, like Cavalcante. Deborah brought her kids to the U.S. because she felt the quality of life is better here than in Brazil, and she wanted to give her kids the best possible chance. Now, Sarah, who owns a house cleaning company, and her husband are raising Deborah's 2 children. So will Cavalcante make it out of Pennsylvania? Has he already done it? So far, he seems pretty capable of disappearing. Let's hope today brings good news to Deborah Brandao's family, a guy who takes the life of a mother of 2 in front of those 2 children deserves the worst possible punishment, in my opinion. This guy's dangerous. Until the next time on Bed Crime Stories.